If you're tired of being tired, if you're tired of feeling anxious, frustrated, stressed, overwhelmed, if you're tired of having things not work out the way that you intended, this video is for you. Today, I'm going to be talking about the number one reason you're not seeing the types of results that you want, especially when it comes to stressful, anxiety-inducing situations like speaking up in a meeting or taking on a client call. And the reason for it is not what you think. I'm Christina, I'm a social psychologist, and on this channel, I help leaders, founders, coaches, and solopreneurs understand how to develop confidence in their mindset and in their skills so that they can run their business and lead their teams way more effectively. If that's interesting, stick around and subscribe for more. You've probably looked into everything under the sun, every single tip and trick that you can think of to help you mitigate your stress, to reduce your anxiety, to help you feel more confident at work, especially when you're communicating, when you have to speak up, when you have to speak in a meeting, maybe if you have to lead a meeting, if you have a new client and you're not sure if you're coming across in the right way. These are all very anxiety-inducing situations for many of us. Heck, I've been there myself. I've had more times than I can count where I've had to go to department-wide meetings with professors and established researchers, and I felt anxiety even asking a single question. And see, many of us feel this way. And even if you've looked into tips and tricks, if you've studied all the formulas, if you've looked into the points that you need to make, you know that in the moment, a lot of them don't work. For whatever reason, when the stress spikes, everything just goes out the window and you feel the exact same way you did last time. And that's okay, because again, I've been there too. Now, here's the thing that everyone seems to overlook, and that's so misunderstood, but it's a crucial component of why you are continuing to live in the cycle of stress and overwhelm. You see, most people think that when they are stressed or they're overwhelmed or they're feeling anxious in the moment, they can do things to self-regulate and to mitigate the stress, so to reduce their stress levels. And that's right, to an extent. So if you're feeling stress and you do the typical deep breathing, right? Maybe you do affirmations in the mirror, your stress levels will decrease a little bit. And you've probably been there and you've seen what this is like, where you're doing all the things and you're using all the strategies to mitigate the stress, but you're still feeling stressed. If you're like me, you've probably had situations where you've tried to deal with the stress and it just got the best of you. And then you were left in the cycle, in the spiraling cycle afterwards of feeling disappointed in yourself, of feeling like you let yourself down, of feeling like you failed by your own standards. And so here's the thing that's so often overlooked. You need to understand what your baseline nervous system response is before you get into even evaluating your stress levels, your overwhelm, and strategies for do that. Now, here's what I mean. Let's imagine a scale of 0 to 10. Think of 0 as being completely stress-free. That might be, in your mind, a carefree yogi, a Buddhist monk, someone super zen, living in a forest, whatever it is, right? 0 is completely stress-free. Your nervous system is regulated, you're good, no stress whatsoever. Now, 10 would be stress overwhelm. You are on the verge of a breakdown at any moment. Everything is a trigger. The noise, the lights, it's overstimulating, one wrong comment, and you could just be set off and explode like a rocket ship. And that's okay. The important thing is not what your stress level is. The important thing is to understand where you're starting from. So again, 0 to 10. Most people think that if they are stressed in the moment, let's say you're about to speak up in a team meeting, and your cortisol spikes and you're feeling stressed and you feel like you're at an 8 or a 9. You might think misleadingly that doing some deep breaths or saying some affirmations, grounding yourself in the moment will take you back down to a 2 or a 3. And that's just not the case. You see, what you need to understand to really start to make a difference in the way that you feel is your baseline stress level. So if on a daily basis, you are walking around already at a 7 or an 8, if when you sit down and you have your morning cup of coffee or you're on a break having a snack, and you're still at a 7, 8 as a default, well, anytime you have another stressful situation during the day, you're going to go up to a 9 or a 10, maybe even an 11 or a 12. And that's when you can go into complete overwhelm and shutdown. And that's when people start experiencing things like panic attacks or overwhelming anxiety, maybe even like the shakes, right? Let me know if you've ever had that happen to you. And so if your baseline is 7 or 8, if we're being honest, most of us are living every single day in a chronic state of stress. And our baseline is 7 or 8, maybe even 8.5. And so if you're starting at an 8 and you become stressed, you cannot expect a strategy in the moment when you're already stressed to take you down past what your baseline is. Your baseline is the cap that you will be at. So if you're experiencing stress or anxiety or overwhelm in the moment, you can't go lower than your baseline because that is your baseline and that is where you will stop. Making sense, right? And so what do? Right? When you are already living in the hamster wheel of your life, constantly reacting to things, scheduling more things than you have time to do, how do you start to lower your baseline stress levels? Great question. You see, there's a lot of techniques that you can use. The important thing is that you pick something that works for you and your lifestyle. So here are the 3 recommendations I'm going to make for you to just start to consider and play around with and just try on for size in your already day-to-day life. Now, recommendation number 1, habit stacking. You've probably heard of the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a wonderful concept that teaches us if we want to change our habits, if we want to add a new beneficial habit into our lives and actually get it to stick so that we see the benefits of it, we need to habit stack, which means you just need to pick something that you already do on a regular basis and link it to the new habit that you'd like to have. So maybe you're used to waking up, brushing your teeth, sitting down and scrolling while you have your morning cup of coffee. Well, you're already used to doing that routine. So instead, you might add a 15-minute journaling session after your coffee. Or you might replace the scrolling with 15 minutes of breath work or journaling or listening to frequencies to sort of lower your stress levels preemptively, right? You take something that you're already doing and you just add a little bit to it so that you start seeing consistent momentum to then get that consistent progress to then get those consistent results. So when you are starting to habit stack, my recommendation is to start mild. If you're new to any sort of stress strategies, aside from the typical things that are recommended, like taking it easy, maybe meditating, right? You need to pick something that seems doable for you to do. So for example, if you're someone who has never journaled, if you're someone who doesn't necessarily like to journal, if you find the process of sitting down with a pen and paper tedious, then journaling is not going to work for you. And it's definitely not going to work for you an hour every single day when you're starting from 0. So pick something that seems realistic, that seems like a baby step out of your comfort zone, and add it into your schedule with something that you're already doing on a regular basis. Recommendation number 2, start to distinguish between the types of stress, overwhelm, or anxiety that you're feeling, because not all of it is equal. You see, there's a misconception that anytime you're stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, the only solution is to take it easy, to relax, to curl up with a blanket and your favorite cup of tea, or to watch shows for 7 hours straight. And in reality, that's just not the case. The way that I like to think of it, we have 2 categories of stress that we experience. The first is stress when we are legitimately stressed and drained. That is when you want to do the things that nourish you, that help you calm down. If you are feeling like you're so incredibly fatigued that you just can't function, like you don't even have the energy to get up and brush your teeth at the end of the night, then yes, you need to take it easy. And taking it easy is uncomfortable for most of us high achievers. We are used to going. We are used to pushing ourselves. We are used to functioning through the anxiety. And so you have to train yourself again with baby steps, with pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And it's one thing to take it easy and to watch TV and to mellow out. But it's another thing to intentionally decompress, such as by creating a low stimulation environment for yourself. Turn down all the lights, turn off the electronics, maybe even get like a weighted blanket. What is that called? Get an eye mask, right? Put on a weighted blanket, low noise, low lights, low stimulation, and maybe do like a gentle breathing session. Maybe just lay there. Sometimes we think that doing something is the answer, even if that doing something is watching TV to relax. But often what our minds and our bodies actually need is unplugging and disconnecting, going for a walk without any headphones, laying in our room without a phone to scroll on, right? When you are so incredibly fatigued, you need to rest. And distracting yourself while you sit is not the same thing. Now, this brings us to our second category of stress. And this is the one that is so commonly overlooked, but is so incredibly crucial to understand because this is what makes the difference for you. If you are stressed and feeling like you have excess, if you feel like you are jittery, if you can't sit still, maybe your leg keeps shaking, you want to walk and pace back and forth, you're just feeling restless, that is the stress, the overwhelm, the anxiety that is in excess and needs to be released. Now, this is when sitting still and watching TV, this is when scrolling, this is when anything mild will not work and will actually reaffirm the restlessness that you're feeling. So instead, when you're in a state of excess stress, you need to purge it from your body with some sort of physical activity. Maybe that's going for a walk. Maybe that's going for a run. Maybe that's climbing the stairs in your house up and down for 20 minutes. Maybe it's some vigorous yoga. You get to pick what works for you. But the distinction that I really want you to understand is that stress is not equal. When you're stressed and drained, you need strategies that work for you. And when you're stressed and excess, you need different strategies that help you get physical activity and purge that stress from your body. When you can make that distinction for yourself, you will see a world of difference in how you feel and the mental clarity that you experience. Now, my third recommendation for you, try new things. See, most of us, pretty much all of us, are creatures of habit. And we like to do the things that we are familiar with, the things that we already tried, the things that we already know. Stepping outside of our comfort zone, especially to try new modalities, is pretty uncomfortable for many people. But if you want to have as effective of results as you can, you have to push yourself to step outside of your comfort zone and try new things. If you hate journaling, maybe journaling on a blank page is not for you, but a guided journal might help you have breakthroughs you never experienced. If you don't like meditating, well, maybe it's just a specific style of meditating that you've tried that hasn't resonated. Maybe you need a guided meditation. Maybe you don't need a guided meditation and you need to come up with it yourself. Maybe you need music. Maybe you need silence. There is so many tweaks and changes that you can make to customize your strategies to help you regulate your nervous system in a way that works for you. But if you are stuck in your comfort zone, if you are stuck thinking that you've already tried everything because you've hit the basic boxes, you are doing yourself a massive disservice and you just, quite frankly, will not experience the type of results that you could if you were to step outside of your comfort zone, be a little bit more open-minded, and try things from a new perspective. There are so many modalities out there, and odds are you haven't tried every variation of every kind. And the reality is, more than one thing will work for you. And that's perfect because we are all unique. We are all different. We have different preferences. We have different lifestyles. We have different schedules. We have different constrictions on what we can and cannot do on a daily basis. And so if you actually want to see results, if you want to lower your baseline stress level and regulate your nervous system so that you're able to handle the everyday stressful moments that you're already experiencing without feeling like you're completely losing control and losing your mind in the process, then you need to do things that you haven't been doing. You need to do things that you haven't done. You can't do the same thing and expect to get a different result. That's what they call insanity, right? So give yourself permission. Heck, I am giving you permission to try something new that is beneficial, that is healthy, and that is going to help you regulate your nervous system. So to summarize, whatever your baseline level of your nervous system is, that is what you will continue to come back to until you can lower the baseline. Most of us are already walking around on a pretty high stress level. And so we can't expect any short-term technique to help us calm down more than our baseline allows in the moments when we're already triggered and dysregulated. And so the thing that everyone overlooks is that in order to feel less stressed and less overwhelmed in the moment, you actually have to backtrack and regulate your nervous system ahead of time. And so by habit stacking, by adding in new baby steps to things that you're already doing, by understanding the type of stress you're experiencing, whether that's stressed and drained or stress and excess, and choosing the right strategy accordingly. And by giving yourself permission to play around with new techniques to expand your toolkit so that you have different strategies in place for different situations, the combination of this is going to radically change the way that you feel on a daily basis, especially over the long term. And if you want to experience less anxiety in the moment, you have to work backwards and start beforehand. Comment down below with what your biggest takeaway was, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.